Hello again, I'm Robert Fithin. Was I wrong about Black Sabbath's Technical Ecstasy album? That's kind of a strange way of putting it. It's more like, has my opinion changed on this album? I don't think I was wrong. I mean, an opinion can't be wrong, which, you know, I've reviewed probably hundreds of albums on this channel at this point, and I'm still kind of amused when somebody, you know, I give my opinion and they're like, no, your opinion's wrong. Like, an opinion can't be wrong. I mean, I think it was in the third grade when I got the reader, and one of the lessons in there was the difference between an opinion and a fact. But anyway, so yeah, when I first heard Technical Ecstasy, it was in the 90s. I, you know, moved out of my parents' house and got my first job in radio, and was in an apartment, had a roommate for a while. He was at the radio station too. He had a great music collection as well, and had this on CD, and so we would listen to this. And I've actually never owned this before in any kind of physical media at all. I mean, this is the only Ozzy Black Sabbath that I don't, well, previously, did not have CD, record, anything. And I remember hearing it and thinking, okay, yeah, I don't need that. That's not a very good album at all. I remember when the 4 or 5 LP box set came out, and I actually said on one of my videos, you know, we don't need that. Who needs a super deluxe Technical Ecstasy release? I mean, we're really starting to scrape the barrel with that one. But so I recently got the Black Sabbath box set with the 4 albums from 89 to 95. So I've been checking these out off and on. I don't want to just listen to all 4 over and over again. I want to kind of, you know, let them simmer. I was already familiar with Cross Purposes and Headless Cross a little bit. Was not familiar with the other 2 at all. So I've been kind of listening to this off and on. And found Technical Ecstasy for like $10 and thought that's a pretty good price for this. Maybe I'll just add this to collection. That way I'll have all the Ozzy stuff, which I've said in other videos I need to stop doing, just buying records to have them in the collection. But broke my own rule again and got this. And I've had it for a little while and finally put it on, and it's like, this is not bad. This is a pretty good album, actually. I was kind of surprised. I didn't remember what it sounded like. I remember it being a lot more keyboard oriented than it actually is. But, you know, this is up there with, you know, Sabotage and certainly Never Say Die. Not that bad of an album at all. It starts off with this really just galloping rhythm that, you know, this beat that I just love with Backstreet Kids, which is a great way to start. It just comes blasting out. Ozzy's singing full-throated, you know, got the full voice going on, and great song, with the exception of the part of the chorus where he keeps saying, "Nobody I know will ever take my rock and roll away from me." I do not like that at all, and that's probably one of the reasons I didn't like it when I first heard it on CD back in the 90s. I don't really remember why I didn't like it. Like I said, I remember it being a lot more keyboard oriented for some reason. Now, there are keyboards in You Won't Change Me, the second song. It's like a 6-minute thing, and it is a rock song. It has keyboards in it, but they are kind of more like the eerie early Black Sabbath keyboards. Everything in this album, though, just sounds cranked up. It's kind of like Born Again, where everything is just cranked. I mean, I know that Tony Iommi produced this. They didn't want to go with an outside producer. They wanted to produce it themselves, and Tony Iommi was the only one that, I guess, put forth the effort, while the other guys went off and did drugs or something. But so he produced this, and you know, the vocals sound more like they're produced like another instrument. Really, they're mixed right in. They're, you know, everything is just like I said. I think if you had this on VU meters, the VU meters would be like this, because everything is just full throttle, cranked up. You've got to, if you're going to listen to this, you've got to listen to this loud. I mean, I know a lot of rock albums used to advertise that this album is meant to be listened to loud or whatever. This one really is, though. It's All Right is the first time that somebody besides Ozzy Osbourne has a vocal on a Black Sabbath album, and it's Bill Ward, and it's a totally different kind of Black Sabbath song. It's more like a, you know, almost like a, what do I want to say, like an English glam, early 70s glam rock ballad type of thing. Drums come in pretty strong, you know, after the first verse or so, but it is this kind of like a English, like I said, I'm going like an English glam thing, but it cranks pretty heavy on the volume as well, but it is a ballad, and it is slower, and it is Bill Ward singing, and it just does not sound like any Black Sabbath you've ever heard before. And then Gypsy wraps it up, where again, full throttle, Ozzy, full screaming, full throat singing, everything cranked up. Being at the end of the side, there is that kind of inner groove thing going on where everything kind of sound, it just adds to the distortion a little bit there. This is a great pressing, though. It does have a little bit of inner groove thing going on. But it is Vertigo. It is a UK pressing. It is on the Vertigo, not the Swirl, but the... it wasn't released on the Swirl. By then they had switched to the Spaceship label. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the artwork at all, either the inner sleeve or the cover. I think that was probably one of the turnoffs. Even though I love Hypnosis usually and their covers, this one I don't think does it. And maybe that's why I always associated this with more kind of electronic sound, is because of that cover. But Hypnosis didn't do it this time. Usually, like I said, love their stuff. Saw the documentary, excellent, but wish it was longer. But not this cover. So side 2 starts off with All Moving Parts Stand Still, and definitely continues the everything cranked up. Tony Iommi, I imagine him in the studio just going, you know what, we're a hard rock band, metal band, whatever, let's just everything all the way up. That's how I want to produce this, and then get out of here. But it does have a shrill, it has an icy kind of sound, like the high end is way up on this. And it does kind of have that kind of, ice picks hitting concrete kind of sound in the dead of winter. Rock and Roll Doctor is corny. I think a title like that is best suited for a fun southern rock kind of band like Little Feat, who had it first. Rock and Roll Doctor is the song that I remember from this album, from hearing it from years and years ago. And I did not like that then. I didn't care for it on here. It's Black Sabbath. They don't need to be singing about, I need a rock and roll doctor. It doesn't suit them. And yeah, probably one of my least favorite tracks on here. I never cared for Rock and Roll Doctor. And that's, like I said, that's probably a track I thought of when I thought of I remember one of these songs. It's Rock and Roll Doctor. That would be the one. She's Gone, Dirty Women. Dirty Women, they don't mess around. Which I would think Dirty Women do mess around and making them dirty women. But again, just blasted out rock. Ozzy's full vocal going on, mixed right in with the music, and you're getting to the end of the record, and there is that inner groove distortion that this particular pressing has, which just adds to that. And it just, like I keep saying, it just sounds like everything is cranked all the way up. So it's definitely a rock album, not a kind of a keyboardy kind of album like I remembered. So yeah, but yeah, She's Gone. We go from a Little Feat title to a Daryl Hall and John Oates title. But yeah, I mean, I could see why when they came out with that Super Deluxe thing that they did a whole album with a new remix of this. I don't know what that sounds like. I'm not usually into remixing things. I think once something is mixed and part of history, and that's the way it's been heard for 40 years, you should leave it. I still hope they never remix Born Again, because I think that distorted, cranked up thing really lends to the charm of that album. I don't hate that album like a lot of people do, and I think part of it is that whole push everything all the way up, everything's in the red kind of sound really works with that particular album. Some of it works on here, some of it not so much, especially when you get the high end going, like on All Moving Parts Stand Still. But I can see why somebody would say, this needs a remix. We need to go in and professionally do this and see what that sounds like. Bring this album to full life and not just push everything up. So maybe one day I'll check out that remix and see how that sounds. But right now I'm fine with this, and I'm fine with Technical Ecstasy from Black Sabbath. I'm not a hater on this album anymore. I'm not going to dismiss this album anymore. Still do not like the artwork on here, but yeah, it's not an album I'm going to look at and be like, oh, God, don't need that. Glad I picked this up for $10. That's a great price for this, especially the UK one. And yeah, I mean, I'll listen to this again occasionally and throw this on. Is this on par with, the debut and Paranoid and Volume 4 and Master of Reality and Sabbath Play Sabbath? No, it is not. Is it better than Never Say Die? I think so. I do think so. This doesn't have that jazzy stuff they tried to slip in on that album. I will give it that. The Bill Ward thing isn't terrible. It just doesn't sound Black Sabbath-y. It sounds out of place, but, you know, it's a nice change-up, I guess, in the middle of side one, so to speak. But, yeah, I'm not going to hate on this my opinion of this has evolved, I guess I will say, since I've heard this again, because I really really didn't remember a lot about this except for Rock and Roll Doctor, and the rest of what I did remember, like I said, I kind of misremembered. So, yeah, my opinion on this has kind of changed. I think before, when I was hearing this, you know, I was in the apartment, you know, probably doing other things, not paying a lot of attention, don't really remember. These days when I'm listening to music, I'm much more critical, I'm much more mindful, I'm focused, you know, like I used to be when I was a teenager or whatever. I don't want to make videos of talking about albums and I'm just kind of half-assed listening to them. I want to give them my full attention 2, 3, 4 times. I don't want to go on and present this to the world and be like, well, I listened to this album while I was doing the dishes. I didn't care for it. That's not, I don't want to be that person. So I'm much more tuned in. But yeah, Black Sabbath, Technical Ecstasy, 1976. Not horrible. How's that? I'm Robert Fithen. Thanks again for watching my videos, and thanks again to the vinyl community for keeping the videos coming out, keeping this thing alive, keeping vinyl interest, and just overall music interest out there. Still love watching the videos, and we'll continue to watch those, and hopefully I'll talk to you again soon.